Yeah, I know. Every online event starts with a muted mic. So sorry about that. We say in Iceland, "Fall is far ahead," which means kind of like if it starts off pretty badly, you know, it's a good thing, and it means that the rest is going to be perfect. Anyway, I thank you all for being here. If anyone is here already, my name is Ólafur Sigurðsson, better known as Siggi, and it's more easily pronounced as well. I just want to start by saying, thanks a lot for having me here. It's an honor to be here. I hope I will at some point be able to attend the festival physically, and until then, we have the internet, of course. So I don't think there's anything to wait for. I just want to start by going through a little bit. Let's see. I'm a one-man show here, so I hope this all works out. I am using a new software platform, or not a new software. It's new to me, a software platform to broadcast this thing. So hopefully everything will work out as planned. Just a bit about the conversation, because that's kind of how I want to look at this, a conversation between photographers, because I'm first and foremost here to present what I'm doing and kind of my thoughts on the theme of this Photofest, which is, as you probably know, trust. And so I just want to go through these few things on the screen. I'll talk a little bit about me, just like my background and my current situation, because I think that it's it kind of leads into why I'm talking about this. I'll show you a few examples of my assignments, and then share my thoughts about trust. Mind you, those are my thoughts. I'm by no means an expert on trust or and documentary photography as a whole, but I am willing and able to share my thoughts and my ideas. I just want to let you know before we start, don't hesitate to ask and comment and shoot me some questions about what we're going on. I will be able to see all your questions, whether you are joining me from Facebook or YouTube, and I'll see the comments and questions pop up here, and I'll try and answer as we go. Please don't hesitate to ask or comment, because it's always nice to know that there's someone on the other hand, and I'm not just looking into my camera here, talking to no one. So let's start. That's me as an infant, more or less. This is 30 years ago on one of my first trips with my rescue team. I started in a rescue team 30 some years ago, 32 or 3 years ago, as a volunteer, and that progressed into something that's kind of still going. I've been, as I say, a search and rescue volunteer with a rescue team since 1990, and the plan was always to study photography, to go abroad and study photography. But then, life happens, and I got offered a job at the ISAR headquarters. ISAR is the National Association for Search and Rescue here in Iceland. I got offered this job as a course director and lead instructor for the rescue school, which trains all the volunteers around the country. So from 1997 until 2012, I more or less was soaked in search and rescue and the whole emergency sector in Iceland, photography kind of became a hobby alongside it. Didn't really start shooting search and rescue until 2010, 11, 12, something like that. And as I say, that was kind of my background. I was really, there's no other way of putting it. I was 200% search and rescue. It was my hobby and my profession, and borderline on obsession at times there. So I specialized in search techniques and search management and stuff like that. And I was a member of the National Search and Rescue Operational Command, which is a kind of a quality control for all search operations in the country. So I was pretty deeply rooted in the search and rescue community. However, when I was approaching 40, I realized that I hadn't actually studied photography yet. So I started studying photography alongside my job at ISAR, and I graduated from the Reykjavik Technical College as a photographer in 2012. And I have photographed professionally since 2012. I work from my home studio where I am situated right now. I have a small home studio, so again, my work, my life, and kind of it's all the same thing really. I'm always working and never working. So, but my main job is being a commercial photographer really. So this is the kind of stuff I shoot most days. Nothing to do with search and rescue, except that, of course, specializing in something like search and rescue kind of gets your name out there as someone who is willing to go out and into the field and suffer a little bit for the image. So maybe I get some commercial photography jobs through that. But I don't think you came here because you were interested in the regular commercial photography. That's the bread and butter, as I say. But emergency photography is what I like to tell people I specialize in. Of course, it's just a part of what I do, but it is what I am most proud of. It's what I'm most passionate about. And it was for me a way to keep one foot in the search and rescue sector in Iceland, just to keep, and also, of course, after having been in and around search and rescue and the whole emergency sector here in Iceland, because it's a very closed and close-knitted community, search and rescue, emergency, management, fire departments, all the whole sector is, everyone knows everyone. So since I already had a lot of connections there, it just made sense to kind of utilize that into starting my photography career. And as I say, I also just wanted to kind of, keep my finger on the pulse in search and rescue and the emergency sector. So I hope I'm still with you guys. No comments. You can, shoot me a comment. It'll let me know that I'm not alone. I'll play for you just a very short video here that kind of describes a little bit what I do for ISAR. Yeah, that was it. Oh, that wasn't it, actually. There's more. Just a quick note, since a part of this like presentation and that video specifically was a part of I'm reusing stuff and repurposing stuff. So it was a video. Like, let me show you. It was a video I made for the publishing of this book, which is not actually mirrored in real life. It's just mirrored the way you see it. But that's another matter. The next thing, let's see. The idea here is to go through just a few examples. Some of them are taken from this book, but other ones are newer and were excluded from the book. So part of it is just to kind of like familiarize you with what I do and the projects, so you can kind of like see where I'm coming from when I go into my thoughts about trust and the different layers of trust, if you like. So those are a few examples from both call-outs that I photographed, like actual operations, and from staged shoots. Just to, as I say, to familiarize you with what I do, and to familiarize you, because Icelanders tend to think that everyone else knows everything about us and the way we do things. And specifically, everyone in Iceland knows the rescue teams and ISAR and everything we do. It's very well presented, and it's actually the by far the best known brand in Iceland. So I tend to think that everyone knows everything about it, but I guess you guys out there, you have no idea what it is. So it should familiarize you with ISAR and the rescue teams here as well. No. So this is the first actual operation that I documented from beginning to end, and it kind of like and I start with that because it was the transition for me to decide to move entirely from being a regular responder into being ISAR's documentary photographer. So this is just to make a long story very short. There was this emergency call from a stranded hiker, and he was found in the end deceased, unfortunately, on this glacier on the south coast of Iceland. And at this time, I was both a member of I did parts of the investigations in the headquarters, and I also did part of organizing the search and searching in this area. And at the same time, I was photographing. And that was a kind of an eye opener for me, and was the reason probably why I decided to make the shift, because I felt that it didn't really go together to have these two hats at the same time, to be a rescuer as well as a photographer. But we'll go a bit more hopefully into this in the later points. So just a few images from this search. It was a very big operation with probably around 300 people contributing to the search. And I was there at more or less every level, photographing, organizing, searching, with all the hats on top of another. So I did this as a small exhibition after that as a part of my photography studies at the time, and some of the images were like, this image was very controversial, and it made me think about one more aspect of photographing search and rescue, because this rescue is not roped up. It's not the textbook way to do what she is doing there. So it was yet another layer that from this search and onwards, or this operation and onwards, kind of started like building up different thoughts and different ideas about how I should like both construct my images and take them, but also how I should present them and how they should be used. Some images are good for training purposes, others are good for PR purposes, yet others are good for like archiving purposes and documenting the history. So this was the last image of my series. When there were some more images in the series, I shortened it down a little bit, and this also was a kind of a controversial image because it's a smiling rescuer and it's taken just like 10 minutes after the victim was found, and it sparked a lot of conversation about the dangers and the risk that rescuers take and the mixed emotions when somebody is found, and that probably is subject for another presentation though. Well, I told you I would tell you a little bit about the rescuers. I think that's yet another layer in this, because the rescue volunteers in Iceland are just regular people. They have everyday jobs. They do this as a hobby and as a community service, really. But they voluntarily, people here realized we are only 270,000 in a country of 103,000 square kilometers. So it's a pretty big place for pretty few people. So people realize that they have to contribute to their society for everything to work out. So and this is a good example of that. This is the air crash exercise, simulation exercise in Gjögur in Iceland, which is in the northwest of Iceland. A very small community of just about 50 people at the moment, and everyone takes part in the training exercise. So this is not documenting an actual operation. This is documenting pretty much like everyday life for these people. They have to be everywhere. They have to be. I'm not saying that this is an everyday event for them, but it's a part of what everyone has to take part. The children, the elderly, and everyone in between. Very realistic exercise and a very good preparation for a small community to be prepared if, say, a bus goes off the road or an airplane goes down. So you can see even this guy. I think he's about 12 years old. He was in charge of transportation of these patients from the airport. So it's a very good example of like the community around search and rescue in Iceland. Another example of that is this. This is Baldur. He is the local barber at Höfn, which is in the southeast of Iceland. He has this old small barber shop, and works alone as a barber. But when there is a call out, he puts this sign in the window: "Gone for a call out. Best regards, Baldwin." And there are actually stories of people going around in Höfn, where he lives, with a half-cut head for days while he's up on a glacier rescuing some travelers. So and this is what he does in the evenings, at the weekends, and well, at 24/7 if needed. So this is an actual call out. We do these, like I regularly do trips around the country where I try and go and document things that are going on with local rescue teams. And I was on one such trip up northwest in Iceland when and I've been shooting from 7 in the morning till I think 11 o'clock in the evening when there was this call out. And of course I tagged along with these guys, these young guys that had probably been on the sea there, raised on the sea since they had diapers on. So very experienced, even for their young age. So there was this ship, sunken ship in the this sunken boat up in the northwest corner in a nature reserve called Hornstrandir. And we were the second boat to arrive, and the first boat had managed to like keep the sinking boat afloat and gotten the people out, but they had to be sailing around the bay there to keep the boat afloat. So our guys had to jump over into the boat, bail it out, and get all the water and all the debris out of there for the boat not to sink. So they were rescuing. There were no lives at risk there, but they managed to rescue this boat. So I'm not much of a seaman, but I tend to get seasick unless I eat a lot before I go on sea. So I actually stopped by at the burger joint there. I bought the biggest burger they had and stuffed it down, and managed to not get seasick or that cold. So that was a success story. I'll go quickly through some of these. I respond to these call-outs as a volunteer, just like anyone else there. So I do some work for ISAR as a commercial photographer, which I get paid for. But if I go on a call-out to photograph, I am there as a volunteer, just like all the rescuers. And I think that is an important part of the trust building, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. So I am there on the same grounds as they are. I'm not paid to be there, and I use my own modified, like a 4-wheel drive truck, to go there. So and all that cost is from my own pocket, and I think that's important for me to kind of like maintain the trust that I have from these people. So this is we regularly get like these massive snowstorms, and people get stuck in the hills, even though they close the roads. Sometimes they are not closed soon enough. Sometimes people go around the closed gates and end up in trouble. And sometimes, and I don't think unfortunately didn't find the image of that, sometimes I end up rescuing the rescuers. It doesn't happen very often, but it's definitely a part of the trust building. You see the truck that's on the end of this rope. It took them so much time to pull out this car that they had gotten stuck by the time that they finally tried. So I pulled them out. So I'm not completely useless. I'm not just there in their way. And I frequently use this single occasion to justify my existence there. No, well, we are kind of like, and I say we, and I'm talking about the voluntary search and rescue personnel. We are kind of like the multi-tool or the Swiss Army knife of search and rescue or the emergency sector in Iceland. If there is something that happens that nobody else does, it's usually us. And this is a stranded whale just outside Reykjavik. Looks like we are somewhere in the wilderness trying to get this whale back out. But actually, when I'm shooting this, I have about 150 people right behind me, onlookers, just passers-by, that were looking at this whole thing. I frequently photograph drone images and regular photographs at the same time, which has caused me to to crash a few drones, but it's worth it mostly. And yeah, this is maybe some of these are examples of when I kind of like go a little bit. I'm always trying to connect the images with trust, and sorry if I keep stopping at that. A part of the reason I sometimes get other images than like the news photographers on site is that I have this second layer of trust towards or from the rescuers and from the people in charge on scene. So I can get a little bit closer than others because they know I have the same training as the rescuers. I have the same background. So and also because they know these images are all shot for the emergency sector. They never go published anywhere in the media unless there is like ISAR or someone else who is like the in-between man. They never go. No image goes directly from me to the media, and people are starting to realize that, or have realized that. So there's a second layer of trust there. Anyway, unfortunately, just after they chased this little guy out, he died. So he was probably there beating himself just before he kicked the bucket. This story is a little bit more like maybe for fun, but it's a lesson I learned. The one I missed. We frequently have these bad weathers. I don't know if you've realized I'm talking a lot about bad weather. We have a bit of wind and bad weather here. So this is on a call out just outside Reykjavik, or actually it is a part of Reykjavik, but it's a little bit outside of the city called Kjalarnes. And I got quite a few nice images that I liked on this call out, but I didn't release any of them because I missed the photo that I wanted to get. And I didn't really release any of these images until a year later because I was kind of disappointed about the image that I wanted to get but didn't get. There is a very distinct sound that comes in this area just before there is a big gust of wind. You hear this kind of like low rolling thunder coming down, which is the wind coming down Mount Esja, which is the mountain just above. So you know a few seconds before the wind gust hits that it's coming. And then most people do what three of these people are doing. They lay down and hug the ground. There, however, was this guy, a friend of mine, a member of my team actually, who is has a lot of faith in his weight. He's not featherweight, so he, like you can see in this first image, he is standing here. He's one of those who tries to stand through these gusts of wind, and that's what he tried to do here. These images are actually 3 seconds apart, and I missed him. There is a car park between us, between the first image and the second image. There is a car park which is about 25 meters wide, and in these 3 seconds, he got blown past me and onto the ground on the other side, and I missed the picture of that. I would have loved to have gotten that image, and I can only imagine what it looked like. But I was kind of like clinging to the tarmac myself, so I missed that image, and for that reason, I never, or I didn't publish these images right away to ISAR because I was disappointed. So it affected the way I looked at the other images. But it's a fun story, though, even though it doesn't really have anything to do with trust. The story is about the power of coffee, but it tells you maybe a little bit more about the search and rescue operations. This is taken on an avalanche call out in Mount Asia, the same mountain I was talking about earlier. There was an avalanche there that unfortunately killed one person. And at the time we are going up there in this Höglund all-terrain vehicle, that last person hadn't been found. So we were kind of in a hurry getting up there, up on the mountain, and you can see the Reykjavik city on the left side there of the image. Just a few minutes after I took these, the last person was found. He was, like I say, deceased. So everything kind of slows down. There's a melancholy in the air, and people are happy not to have to go into this area because it was a dangerous area. But of course, it's always sad when we're not able to rescue everyone. So, sorry, that was the wrong direction. So, and maybe it's because I'm a special coffee fan, but I always love this story because in this snowmobile there is one of these big coffee machines, and every operation ends with a coffee or has coffee breaks in between, and it's just unbelievable what this liquid can do. So it's this kind of like having been a part of all these moments that kind of, it's all a part of building that trust, and it's not deliberate. It's not. I've never like deliberately or premeditated thought, this is the time to build trust. But it just happens organically, and it has to happen organically. You have to be a part of the group. You have to be involved in what you're photographing. I'm a firm believer in that. You will never photograph something like this the same way from the outside as you do from the inside. So that's my thoughts, at least. Yeah, this is maybe, well, it's I don't know how it plays to trust, but some of these are just nice stories. This is in the UK. We actually, ISAR has an international team that responds to earthquakes and other big natural hazards or natural disasters. And this is an exercise that was held in the UK. And as a part of this team, I was a part of this team for many years. I also have like a very good connection to get to tag along with them and document these things. And I used to photograph weddings when I started photographing. And the last wedding I photographed was actually the weekend after this. I had to cut my trip there short, and after that I stopped photographing weddings because they are planned with long notice or like long in advance, and that just doesn't go together with documenting search and rescue. So I decided I would stop taking assignments more than just a few weeks or maybe a couple of months into the future. I would not be planning stuff years into the future because I want to be able to photograph stuff like that. So just coffee again. It just warms my heart just to see an image of coffee. And I'm drinking water now because I already had, I think, 9 cups of coffee today. And we are 3 hours behind you guys. So maybe these images or this story is a good it's a good measurement or tells you a lot about my work and the way and how unpredictable and how cramped with stuff it can be. So this image is shot on Friday morning. These, actually, I keep going the wrong direction. All of these are shot on Friday morning. I was crawling in this rubble in the UK, and this is on Saturday morning with the same camera, shooting the groom and the bride when they were preparing for their wedding that day. A bit of a contrast there, but contrast is always good, I think. Keeps you on your toes. Now we are getting into stuff that really touches on the trust, like the trust aspect, or the trust, these many layers of trust I'm always talking about. There was a bus full of tourists. I think there were about 40 tourists there, 40, 50 tourists, that went off the road just outside of Reykjavik. This is on the way to Þingvellir, which is a big touristic place just outside Reykjavik. The road was slippery. The bus went off. Some people were injured. Others, most people got away unscathed though. And I went there to photograph. Now, there are instances on callouts that I might be dancing a little bit on the line of the line where I feel good about being there photographing, and where the rescuers feel good about me being there. We might not. Well, first of all, we might not have the same line. We might not see this line in the same place. But there are, like I say, there are cases where there have been discussions afterwards, but I think mostly we are on the same page. Now let me just look at, I think there are some questions here, and I want to address them a little bit. I'm sorry if I have forgotten to, if I'm too much into what I'm doing to have remembered your questions. Yeah, well, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. There's one good question here. Well, there are many good questions here. How do I choose which intervention I should be a part of? Depends on many factors, really, because first of all, I have to be available, and unfortunately, I have other jobs I need to be on. So if I have a photo shoot or if I have a deadline, I have. I can't be a part of or I can't attend the call out. I also location. I have to. It has to be logical for me or realistic for me to be there in time for something to be photographed. So it goes without saying that most of the callouts I photograph are close to Reykjavik area where I live, or close to some other. Like I get all callouts that are the teams are called out via SMS, and I get all callouts in the country. So when I travel a lot and I go, I travel a lot both for pleasure and for work. So it happens. Every now and then that I get a call out that is close to me. So those are probably the main factors that come into play there. There might be something like I don't photograph a lot if there's a suicide, like a despondent or someone who has committed suicide. I do not photograph that stuff. That's just out of respect for those who are involved. And yeah, but otherwise, I try to photograph as many colors as I can. How does it support ISAR? Well, the images are used for, because ISAR is funded by the public, so it's self-funded. So a lot of the images are used to for promotion. And it's also used for, it also is beneficial for ISAR for use in all kinds of teaching and training materials. And of course, the core of it is because I want to preserve. I want to, well, first of all, I want to show people what's being done. I want to show what's behind all these callouts. But I think the core of it is I want to preserve document this history, because I know I have been in this for 30 years, and search and rescue has been done for more than 100 years in Iceland, with a organized manner, and we just don't have much material from. We don't have a lot of images or videos or a lot of documented material about this, and that's probably my drive to do this. Let's see. I'll address a couple of more questions, then I'll continue and take the rest of the questions in the end. You seem to be very yeah, that's very good. I think my answer would be yes. I have worked really hard at gaining this trust, but it hasn't been intentional. It has to do with already being a part of this community. I'm not saying that that's the only way to do it, but being a part of it is definitely one way to do it. Let's say that, and I think, and there are many reasons for that. First of all, everything in life really is about personal connections. So if you have a personal connection with someone there, or the more people you know there, and more people that know you and trust you, the better. Also, just the training you get when you become a part of this community, and then people know that you have the same training as they do, and that's I think that would be my recommendation, because you ask about that. You ask about the recommendation for somebody thinking of doing this type of photography. I think that would probably be the prime recommendation, is that find a way to be a part of what they're doing. Don't just come in from the outside and expect everyone to embrace you. Anything like this is a long-term thing, and it has to be, trust has to be earned. At least that's my experience from here. Trust has to be earned there, and it has to be actively kept as well. I'll take one more question here, and then I'll keep going and take some questions at the end as well. But you can ask the questions right away, and I'll just address them at the end. Is there something on me that makes a good photo? Whoa, that's a short and big question. Emotions, definitely one part of it is emotions. I'd say emotions and action. If I'm looking for a better word than action, but there has to be something physical going on for me to like feel the punch of the image. There has to be some kind of action going on, some kind of movement, some kind of power, or something like that. And then it's of course the obvious things. I like simple images. I like depth, different depth. Like a foreground background kind of thing. I like immersive images where you are kind of like immersed into the action. And maybe I'm just saying that because that's the image that's exactly on the screen right now. But the short answer would be emotion and action. What's going on in the image, and of course that's all the like typical photographic answers are a prerequisite of that. It has to be properly framed, properly lit, all that stuff. Of course, I think as a given. But for me to connect to it, there has to be some kind of emotion in it. Anyway, I'll save a couple of questions here until later, and keep going through this. Because this actually is an example of there was, I wouldn't say a debate, but there were definitely comments or definitely thoughts people had about me photographing there, because I went a little bit, definitely, well, I wouldn't say too far, because obviously I am trying to keep my line or keep honest in what I'm doing. But like there, I am handing the camera inside the bus, and they are actually working on extracting the last person which was injured from the bus. But it is always like a little bit of, there's some of the, I'm trying to find the right words here. There is, I couldn't always do that, but it has to be estimated, or I have to decide on the spot where the line is, because you get these looks from people, and they get this look from you back. You get, there's a smile here, there's a frown here. You kind of like assess the situation at any given moment, and I try to put the line there. If I don't know if I'm making sense to you, but that's my thought process on going through this. So, and most of the time, there is nothing in the image that I would hide like I'm doing in this presentation. You can see that white circle on it, but I try and look into the future when I am documenting things like that, because there are always things let me back up, because you cannot show some things the day after the call out. 5 years from then, you can show some things. 20 years from that, you can show other things. And I try to photograph for all these different purposes. So when this becomes like history, 50 years along the line, these images would be not filtered in this way. I would not hide this person's face when this becomes a 100-year-old photograph. But it means that when history progresses, when this happened 50 years ago, we have this image, but I have to be trusted to display each image at the right time, if you get what I'm trying to say. But for tomorrow, like for the day after, I have images like these, where I deliberately hide the person that was like the subject behind a rescuer or behind something else. but still showing the action and the emotions in the rescuers, because I am not there to photograph the victims of these incidents. I am there to photograph the responders. But sometimes, you have to get both to get the whole picture. But you can also do something like this. Or something like this, feet, show feet instead of the head, So that's kind of my way around this. Okay, on to something less controversial. And I will go scroll. I can see I've been talking for just under an hour. You'll let me know in the comments if you're tired. I can stop talking at any moment. I can also talk into infinity if that's what you are after. As some of you might know, there have been some frequent volcanic eruptions here in Iceland for the last couple of years, especially, but of course all through history. This is a recent eruption that started a couple of hours before this image is taken, and the first thing the rescue teams do is closing off all roads going towards the eruption, while responders are kind of like getting the full image and estimating what needs to be done. This eruption is very close to Reykjavik, so there were already thousands of people heading towards the eruption just a couple of hours after it started. So, of course, obviously documenting this, it's a big project for search and rescue here in Iceland, and it seems to be that this is going to be going on for years to come. Nothing is going on at the moment, but there are a few mountains waiting to erupt at any moment, really. If you see me standing up and running out, that might be what's going on, but I hopefully will get through this though. All kinds of incidents come up, and this is an example of that's actually staged. It's a staged photograph, and an example of where kind of my work for ISAR, my volunteer work for ISAR, meets my commercial self, because this image is actually shot for Gore-Tex. Gore-Tex supplies ISAR with the breathing or the membrane for our clothing, and this was actually a paid gig for Gore-Tex for promotion. So they kind of like it intercepts at some moments in time. So just a few images from that, and I could probably spend a week showing you images from the eruption. I have had enough of images of eruption. I don't know about you, but to us here in Iceland, they are, like I call the new Northern Lights. Everyone here is pretty tired of images of Northern Lights. And Northern Lights were actually the new sunset images before. So it's kind of, yeah, that's how it goes. Okay, so another, I think that is probably the last call out I'm going to talk about, but it is a very good example, and it's what really got me thinking about where this moral line, where I can be photographing, and it started me on this journey to kind of try and understand what it is I can do to earn trust and keep it. I realized that most of the things that I believe I have to do, I was already doing without knowing it. But I think this call probably was when I really started to kind of try and analyze what it is that actually built that trust. This is an avalanche in Mount Asia, very close to Reykjavik, the same mountain as the other avalanche I already showed you. There was one victim. He didn't survive, unfortunately. He was also a member of a rescue team, so it was a little bit personal to the rescuers there on site. It's very short from Reykjavik, so I was there on scene pretty quickly, and there were some unhappy people after that, and I think that is, I can fairly say that was probably the only time that I actually really felt that somebody did not want me there. And I believe I tried to not step on any toes, but you can actually see people glancing at me, giving me that a bit of a look. Why is he photographing? Even though most of the people that knew me, they knew what I was doing, but they also knew the guy they were trying to rescue. So it was a difficult situation, and it got me thinking. But it also, that being said, I probably, and I don't know if you get that from looking at the images, but you know how you're always tainted by the way you felt when you took the picture. So it's sometimes hard to see the difference. You know, is it the effect of the image, or is it my combined effect of the image and actually being there? But I think for me, these are the most emotional pictures I have taken during search and rescue, and there are even some in there that I'm not showing, and will not be shown for the next decades probably. So, but there were talks after this, and there were justifiable talks, but there's always the fact that we have to have images from actual operations. You cannot get the kind of feelings, the kind of emotions during exercises. So, and it's in the end, for me, it's about documenting history and documenting the incredible work that these people are doing. So that's where I am coming from. And this is just there to show you. If you look at this image first, and you can see where the snowmobile is here and these people. This image here is shot just a few minutes after everyone left the area, and then there was this small avalanche that avalanched over the area where these people were gathered here in this area. So it kind of like shows you that even though it doesn't look like a very dangerous area, the dangers are there all over the place. So that's an added layer of trust that you need to have. People need to know that you have the same training for this as they do. Oh, I forgot I added this. Sorry, there's more. I trust that you will let me know when you're tired. I'll go through this really quickly, but it is there was this massive landslide. I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing to the image. You can see this whole landslide. This fracture here, or this hole here in the mountain has come down here and all over the village. It's a small village called Seyðisfjörður on the east coast of Iceland. This is taken a couple of weeks after the landslide hit, and it took with it many houses. No one was injured, no one was killed. But there are many like miraculous stories about that, and it was actually pretty spectacular that nobody was injured or killed in that incident. So we were there at almost the very last day, where they were gathering people's belongings from the rubble. we had been planning to go ever since it happened. But this is what I was talking about earlier. This is very far from Reykjavik. This was in the middle of COVID. So it was, and there was almost no COVID in the east part. They didn't really want us there. All those dirty people from the southwest where everybody had COVID and nobody had COVID up there. So there were many different factors contributing to the fact that I was there only at the very last day that they were actually digging with people and getting stuff out, getting people's belongings out of the rubble. So actually, this lower left image here is an aerial of the rescue team base, which was flooded they have cleared. By the time I took this, they had cleared most of the stuff from the house, but it was completely surrounded with the mudslide. Whole houses were swept out to sea. There was a pretty incredible experience to go through there and just look at the devastation it caused. So even there are emotions attached to it, because I actually ran into people there that I was photographing that had been in that last avalanche I showed you, where I was kind of threading this line. So, and that kind of affected a little bit their attitude towards me from these particular people. But I hope I have gained their trust again. But it's like I say, I try to be on the right side, but it's sometimes it's hard to know where people draw their own line. So I'm gonna switch over to a different view now, so you can see these slides and you can see me, because I'm not showing you many more pictures. I just want to talk about a little bit about these layers of trust, and I have a couple of slides here about just with some points to remind me of what I want to talk about. Okay, I better probably do it like this, so you can see the whole slide. You don't need me that big on your screen anyway. I'm not that much to look at. So those are, and probably more, but the layers I've been talking about, different layers of trust, and you can call it different, types of trust or whatever. But you have to, and I'll just, I have already talked about some of these, but and it's not my intention to go specifically through each and every one. This is more here to kind of illustrate that the trust is on so many layers. There's so many different aspects to this trust. It's the trust from other responders around you. It's gaining the trust of the subject you're photographing, the one that was affected by the incident. You have to earn the trust of the agencies you're working for other agencies that are involved in the incident. That might be police, fire departments, any other responder or body of responders. You have to be trusted to store and archive the footage. Where do you store it? Do you store it on a public server, or is it, how is the security on the server you're storing these images? You have to be trusted for, first of all, what you photograph, like what I would like to say, like the selecting while you are photographing, and the selecting of the images after you photograph, and what do you publish and when do you publish. It's your own safety. Do the rescuers have to be worried about your safety? Do they know that you have been through the same training as they have? Do you use the same protocols and the same methods as they do? And are you a safety threat to others? are you a safety threat to the operation? Can they end up with a situation where you become a burden on the operation? And for me, especially to begin with, I felt that was the most important thing, that they knew that there was obviously any rescue can become a burden on the operation. I mean, anyone can have an accident, but I wanted people to know that I was there with the same training, and there wasn't any more. There wasn't any likelier that I would have an accident than they. So, and then it's, this is kind of like my thoughts about trust and different types of trust. But then it's also these important building blocks, what I like to call the building blocks of trust. What is it that actually builds trust? And I know I might be repeating a little bit, because sometimes it's good to talk about different things under the images. But like I said, especially in the beginning, this was for me the most important thing, that they, I started photographing search and rescue as after having been a search and rescuer for 20 years, and after having which is, I'm not saying that that's a prerequisite, that's necessary for this, but I had actually been in charge of the training of all volunteers in the country as director of the search and rescue school for a few years before I started photographing. So people basically knew that at least I had taken the same courses as they did, because I delivered them to them. So that is I think the very baseline. And then it's connections and network. Who do you know? Who knows you? More importantly, and I'm not talking about this as in you get something because you know someone. You get something that someone else doesn't get. I'm talking about this as people know you, and they know that you can be trusted, and because everything happens very quick, very very fast, and you don't have time to explain or try to prove it to someone that you know what you're doing. You just don't have time for that. So the more people that you know, and the more people that know you and what you can do, the better. And of course, here in Iceland especially, it's a very small community. So that was kind of, having been in the position I was 20 years before, that was the easy part for me, really. And professionalism. There is this, I'm not sure how to explain professionalism to you, but professionalism when you see it. You have to exhibit that you know what you're doing. You have to have everything organized, and I probably don't have to explain what being professional is to you. Many of you probably are professional photographers, but showing that without being arrogant, with being a humble professional. I think that might actually be one of the points here, is to be humble and to be constantly trustworthy. That's constantly being, like I say, trust is earned. You have to constantly be thinking about, you can lose that trust very easily. So you have to be constantly worthy of the trust that you're giving. Humility and respect. I think that is super important. You have to be humble about what you're doing. You have to be respectful of the subjects and the rescuers and everyone involved. Yeah. And to be open and honest about what you're doing. Don't be shy to explain what you do. Don't be shy to explain why you do it. Remember that people that ask you what you're doing are asking because they don't know. And you might have explained it many times, but being open and honest about what it is you do, and always be patient with people and willing to explain. I think that's very important. I think I'll take the questions now, and after that, I will just quickly tell you about a project that I am doing that kind of links into this and links into me being here. Let's see. Find the latest comment. A technical question. I love those. I'm a bit of a tech freak, although I always say that my I'm not like what I call, I'm not religious about brands or gear, but and I always tend to say that I don't collect gear. I'm not, you know, not a gearhead, but people who know me do not agree with me. About what camera do I trust in these conditions, and how do I keep the camera working? I'm shooting this. My webcam right now is my Nikon C9 or Z9. I use Nikon or Nikon, whichever you prefer. I have a few of them. I have Z6 II, Z6, Z7, Z50, and Z9, and all the all my lenses also are from in the Z system. I used to shoot Canon. I mean, I also used to shoot Olympus. I love Olympus as well. Probably the only reason why I'm shooting Nikon now is for the full frame and low light capabilities. Otherwise, I would probably be shooting Olympus Micro Four Thirds, because they are light, they are super powerful, they are the top of the line Olympus, or the OM system, as they're called now. They are have the best waterproofness I have ever experienced in a camera. I took them into the shower with me. I actually have done that with the C9 as well, and after photographing on having ocean spray over the camera. How do I manage to keep my camera working? To be honest, I don't really think about it. I just use the cameras. Some might say I abuse the cameras as well, but I'm not like, I don't want to diss any camera brand, but I used to have problems with my Canons, but that was probably because I wasn't using the Pro models. I was using the 5 Mark II, 3, 4, and the 6, and they frequently froze up in the rain. But I have never had any of those issues with the Nikon, and I assume that if you have the Pro models in any other camera brand, you don't have that problem as well. I never use any rain covers for the cameras. I hardly use. I lose a lot of lens covers. I don't use an UV filter. But if something happens, I break something, it just gets repaired. That's what insurances are for. So I am pretty grim on the equipment, but it hasn't really been a problem for me. So yeah, that's only thing I want to add to that is after mirrorless, which I in every way except one I absolutely love, because there are just so many possibilities with mirrorless cameras. but the sensor is way more exposed in the mirrorless cameras. It's a little bit better than the C9 because it has that lens cover that comes over that sensor cover that comes over the sensor when you exchange lenses. But that's the only problem I have in the field. That's when changing lenses. I used to have a problem with like lenses fogging up when I came in from the cold and into the car or into a hut or something like that. I don't experience that problem anymore with especially the C9 because it's just that waterproof. So I normally just cleaning the lens is enough. I hope that answers your question about the gear. That's not really a question, but a very nice comment. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm glad you like. And that's a very fair and good comment. How did these unfortunate events shape you during time? I don't know. I think people handle things like this in a different way. It hasn't. How should I put this? There are times when, like any other responder, you feel uncomfortable about something, and there are things that might stick with you for a while. But fortunately, I haven't been through any of these kind of like very traumatic experiences, even though I have seen some things. But I guess, like, as long as you're open and honest about it and you have someone to talk to and all that, I think it has only increased my drive and willingness to go out again and try and do some good out there, even though I'm trying to do good out there with a camera now and not being the one who's actually rescuing someone. I hope that I understood the question right, and that answers it. There's one final question here. I think, yeah, that's a very good question. I think I already answered it. Are there gray areas where judgment calls can be made for the sake of a photo? Yes, there are gray areas, and there always will be gray areas. That is, for me, it's not a problem. Oh, it's a problem, of course. But for me, it's easy to recognize my gray areas. And for the individual rescuer, it's easy to recognize their gray areas. The problem is when our gray areas do not go together. And but yeah, there are definitely moments where I had decided to back off. There are moments that there are probably moments where I have gone a bit too far. Hopefully not too many. And there are definitely a lot of moments where I have put down the camera and done some actual good, helped carry a stretcher, or helped with a rope, or pulley system, or whatever it might be. I am a photographer. I have a deep passion for photographing these things, but I am a rescuer first and a photographer second. I think that probably concludes the questions. I know some of you are probably, some of you are still with me, not all of you, understandably. So I'll just go very quickly through this before I sign off. Just wanted to tell you that I am currently, and have been for a few years, trying to push this personal project of mine that I call SAR Europe, photographing search and rescue elsewhere in Europe. It's a completely self-funded project. I would love to have done more of it, and I definitely will do more, but there have been things like COVID and of course money and life in general that has affected the progress of this project. But just wanted to let you know, because some of you are not in Iceland and you are in Romania and all over. So it would be great to have an opportunity at some point to come over and photograph search and rescue somewhere else. So you can find me online at these two pages. One is the left one is dedicated to my search and rescue, my emergency photography, and the other one is my regular commercial photo site. And my social is I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Vero now, of course, like many others are. I am, however, not very active on social media, but yeah, I try to check out social media once a week at least. But it's I am not a big fan of social media, to be honest. Anyway, I think that is probably, if you have any other questions. Yeah, I forgot to share my screen here. I'll just share it. Sorry, I had to mess up at the last moment. So these were my social media sites here. So at least you can post this later, or if you wanna find me online, and these are my sites. Other than that, and if you don't have any other questions, I think I am show you one last comment then, which is kind of fitting now that I am wrapping this up. Thank you for trusting us and sharing my work. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging on for an hour and 23 minutes and 57 seconds. That's quite miraculous, listening to me for all that time. Thanks a lot for coming, and hopefully I'm hoping to see some of you maybe physically at the Photofest maybe next year, or at some point at least. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.